Hello, this is Lady Onion, and today I'm going to be talking about a very touchy subject that was brought to my attention by another YouTuber, and I thought I might want to mention this because I think we fucking humans need to learn this fucking lesson once and for all. And you'll know what the lesson is throughout the story. First of all, trigger warnings on torture, gore, well, everything actually. So this is me, Elena, Lady Onion. Sit back, try not to get too comfy because this is an uncomfortable truth about Unit 731. And then that's the creepypasta for the day. And this is more fact than fiction. Actually, this is should be fiction, but I wish it was more fiction than the actual truth. But unfortunately, we have to learn this lesson. So, what is Unit 731 or 731? Whatever the fuck you... And what the fuck are they, really? They were supposed to be something that was supposed to deter disease, like trying to prevent disease. That's what they said they were doing, but instead they were doing the worst human experimentations on the face of the earth. It was, first it was like a facade where you ended up going to, a fake building, and then you would be lured in, and then you'd be in these very small rooms that were like this, and they basically, one is if you weren't starved, you were healthy enough for experimentation. One was a starvation experiment, the other was dehydration experiment where they were basically mummified alive. And then there was something else I know. They tested a lot of different little critters, diseases on these poor people in Manchuria, China, which would be northeastern China, and Mongolia. That part pisses me off that they got on to Mongolia, but still, let's just stick to the facts. It was started by Shihiro Ishii, like as in Oran Ishii, but Shihiro. He was the leader of this whole shit show. I'm trying to keep my language in check, but I can't. Where they did these really bad human experiments that blew the seas right out of the water. And I mean, they made some of the people who did the worst human experimentations before them, the Germans, they made them look like saints because they were using vivisection, and that is like dissection or surgery without the use of any anesthetic, as well as, or is it called live autopsies? They're kind of fucked up. They use to monitor the progress of infection of these hot diseases, these hot agents. Some of them would be bubonic plague, what is cholera, botulism. That's a bastard. I'll tell you a little story about that one day. And other little things that you shouldn't play with, like anthrax and smallpox and stuff like that, is really not nice. And they would see if they can replace your blood. I think this is what I understand, with an animal's blood. And if they can't do that, they can try to change your plasma. You know, if you get a tattoo and you get that annoying oozy stuff coming out and they have to wipe the tattoo down, that's plasma. Basically, they want to change that oozy stuff into, they want to switch it into seawater. How do they do that? Inject it with seawater. They do a lot of injections, these assholes. And basically, it's kind of worse than mildly infuriating. They also did tests on children, but not just children that are outside of the womb, but little fetuses inside pregnant women. They had a propensity for pregnant women. So they ended up testing pregnant women. They would inject them with a disease or an animal's blood, or transfuse them with animal's blood and see what the fuck will happen. Through vivisection, which was, as I said, it's a form of torture, to be more exact. A lot of their shit was a lot of torture. And then they were starting to wonder if, and they did regular weapons tests on live subjects who were from Manchuria, China, Mongolia, Inner Mongolia and stuff. And they were using these people for weapons tests. They used flamethrowers. You name it, if it's a weapon, they used it. Just as long as it wasn't a martial arts weapon, they used it. And to see how the person will die. And sometimes it just would behead someone and take notes just for the jolly of it, which is kind of arse-slurred in my opinion. They took a lot of notes of every arse-slurred experiment, and it was just god-awful to see. I was lucky enough not to see the vivisections or anything because I wasn't born then. It was the 1930s going on to the 1940s. And then they started playing around with, experimenting with not just weaponizing diseases that are hot agents, which would be considered hot agents or really heavy diseases, but they actually ended up using sexually transmitted diseases. Now this part, trigger warning, NSFW, they would either rape the female prisoners, either to get them pregnant or to get them transmitted with a sexual disease, or they'd have another prisoner to do it. It's kind of fucked up, to be exact. And then, it just goes on and on and on. And then they would vivisect a child out of the mother to see how the infection is doing. How, because they thought that if they leave the body dead, that the decomposition would fuck up everything, as if everything wasn't already fucked up. So they autopsied them alive, which is vivisection. And they took out their, like, they would take parts of their brain out, their throat, their stomach, their liver, or attach their intestine to their esophagus and all this horse shit. They just wanted to see how far the human body, unfortunately, can take. And then, when I was doing my research, I also learned of they didn't have mirrors. There was a Russian girl, like a Caucasian Russian girl who wasn't Asian, and a Ukrainian person. This one also got through to me because I'm also Ukrainian as well as Mongolian. I don't look Mongolian, but it's there. So that being said, they didn't get to see. These two girls never saw a mirror, so they couldn't see themselves. And you couldn't even body check yourself if you were Eugenia Cooney in this case. No mirrors. They forgot what they looked like. They begged one of the officers or assholes, or whatever, the guards or doctors, to go and fetch them a mirror so they can see themselves before they died. It was kind of that was pretty sad. I don't know if this person who fetched the mirror gave it to them out of sympathy or Machiavellian, but it was twisted. Just to read that. Also, they were using bubonic plague, and you know that bubonic plague, if you've heard this podcast, will kill you, which is a good podcast with the errands, that bubonic plague comes from fleas that bite, regurgitate, bite again, and then die. I think that's the case. And then it hijacks the body of the rat and then spills over zootonically to humans. This thing started, unfortunately, in my neck of the realm, Central Asia, which is the Turkestans, the Turkics. So they were the ones. They didn't start it on purpose, according to the errands, but anyways, the Japanese were starting this shit on purpose. They would weaponize bubonic plague, and they'd put the fleas in jars, and then they would drop the jars out of airplanes onto unsuspecting Chinese, whoever else was going around, to basically slaughter them slowly through Black Death, which was kind of fucked up if you ask me. And this one's really fucked up here. Woo-woo-doo. The fellow knew that it was over for him, so he didn't struggle when they led him into the room, tied him down, but when I picked up the scalpel, that's when he started screaming. I cut him open from chest to stomach. He screamed terribly. His face was all twisted in agony. He made this unimaginable sound. He was screaming so horribly. But then, finally, he stopped. This was all in a day's work for the surgeons, but really left an impression on me because it was my first time. Woo-woo-a-doo is right, because then this is kind of fucked off. When you ask me, is that And I really wish this was a made-up creepypasta and that I was messed up in the head, but I'm not. They would douse your hands and extremities with water and leave you in the freezing freaking cold until you got really, like, to the point where your frostbite went black, just to see how the gangrene is, or if they can defrost it. I don't think he can, but it's kind of screwed up. And then they said, after they couldn't try, they found out the best way to get rid of frostbite is scalding hot water. Something I already knew beforehand because I've had a run-in with a milder version of it. I still have my little guys, but still run warm. Nowadays, just run warm water over your hands. Last time, then it was run scalding hot water, and then that'll defrost your hands, and it's gonna hurt like a bastard. Also, they if they couldn't defrost the limb, they would burn the limb or try to crush the limb, which is through crushing, which is kind of that part I remember watching on Wendigoon's version of the Unit 731 that they did that, and I said I couldn't take that, but I had to watch it this morning to make this video. A lot of Unit 731s to, and it was going to drive me nuts, but I had to because I have to relay this message. And basically this is it, is that these assholes, these Conoyeros, they never got away with nothing. They got away with jack squat. They got immunity, or they didn't get anything at all. Some of them were forced to apologize. One person actually forced to apologize. I'll show you the video in question, but I think he was pressured into this one. I think this guy, not to apologize, but to do the stupid shit that he did. Beyond stupid, R-slurred. I don't want to say the actual word, so I say R or R-slurred. You know what that word is. Stupid. Ridiculous. Nonsensical. So, here is the video in question. In my experience, when A-type blood, 100 cc's, was transferred to an O-type subject, the pulse was 87 per minute, and the temperature was 35 degrees Celsius. 30 minutes later, the temperature rose to 38, which would be about 40 or 100 in Fahrenheit. With a slight trepidation, 60 minutes later, the pulse was 106 beats per minute, and the temperature was 39 degrees. 2 hours later, the temperature was 37.7 degrees. 3 hours later, the subject was removed when 8B-type blood of cc of 220 was transfused in an O-type. The subject for an hour later, the subject was described as malaise and psychothoracic in both legs. When A-type blood's 100 cc's was transferred to B-type subject. This seemed to have no side effect. Man medicine. Oh, this is really... You can see it. You can read. Also, I'm going to give you a few quotes on this before I tell you my final thoughts on this shit. So, okay, and I will get to those soon enough. Yeah, it was a very disturbing. It wasn't a very sad. It was beyond sad. And some people to this day had rotten leg syndrome, which is kind of like a necrotizing fasciitis. I think they must have played around with that. So you can see how the Chinese later on, fast forward a couple of decades to now, started their own little shit show with the bats. At least they used animals this time, but still, animals are dignity as well. This is my final thought. Pseudo had a few days previously been interested in talking about women, but now he's thin as a rake with many purple spots all over his body. A large scratches off his chest were bleeding. He painfully cried and breathed with difficulty. I sanitized his whole body with disinfectant whenever he moved. A rope around his neck tightened. After Sano's body was carefully checked by the surgeon, I handed the scalpel to the surgeon, who reversely, grippingly, the scalpel touched Pseudo's stomach and sliced him downward. Pseudo shouted "brute" and died with that last word. Criminal history of Japanese military, PP 118, 119, 1991, copyright. I think we have a lot to... I may have not gone into very much gory detail. I don't want to go into very much gory detail. But basically, eugenics sucks. The fat one. Eugenics sucks. Basically, it's the idea that someone else's DNA is more superior than yours, or yours is more superior than someone else's, which has led to a lot of genocides, not just Europe, Rwanda, Sierra Leone, Chechnya for one, Armenia, and others, but they also did it in Japan. And they thought their DNA, and especially the shitty DNA, their shit didn't smell, and they were superior to the Chinese. They called the Chinese Maruta, or logs, whenever they were doing the experiments. Gotta cut down some Maruta. Gotta cut down some logs. Gotta... blah, 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 whatever. Maruta. Or they would say that they were doing this on Chinese monkeys or long-tailed monkeys. I think those are more prevalent in Africa. But anyways, this was a real... I'm going to tell you, if we don't learn our lesson about genocide, it's going to haunt us again. It's going to come back and bite us in the mother ass. And it's going to start all over again, and it's going to take years to recover. Then we're going to say never again, and it's going to happen again and again, because why? We're not learning this lesson. We're not evolving to be the humans that we are. We should be treating to me, I don't see race. There's only one race, the human race. That being said, I don't believe in anything with hate or eugenics or anything. To me, it's just DNA. It's spit, it's shit, it's hair, it's eyelashes, it's teeth, the pulp in your teeth, casings in your hair root, you name it. It's makes you, but it doesn't have to make you an asshole. Think about that. Does DNA have to make you an asshole? Because you think your DNA is better than someone else's. I want you to think about that before you go to sleep tonight. Does my DNA give me the right to be an asshole to someone else? Or to cause harm to another human being which is the same race as mine? And I'm going to tell you one motherfucking thing. There's only one race on this planet of humans. Human. And there's 50 shades of brown. But there's just one race. Human. And as far as I'm concerned, there are the other kingdoms, like the animal kingdom, the animal race. And then you got those little fucker germs. I think we should be more apt to killing germs and doing what the Unit 731 was supposed to do in the first place and avoid disease and kill off the germs instead of using them to kill other people off. And, well, it's time that the H word gets it, because hate has been the longest frickin' pandemic since mankind ever existed, and it's gotta stop. Please learn a lesson. Do not hurt someone over their fucking DNA or their fucking religion. This is something they cannot control, so don't start. And certainly don't start experimenting on them because of their fucking DNA or religion. Would you want to be experimented or murdered because of your DNA or religion? So, would you want that same treatment done to you? Treat others the way you want to be treated. If you like this actual content and stuff, feel free to smash the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell button for more intel, and I'll give you more fictional or true life creepypastas. Bye!